Chapter 55, A Mother's Tears and a Sword's Oath. The Grand Camellia Palace, usually a bastion of high fashion and refined taste, was now a hive of activity. Inside, the main hall had been transformed into a bustling workshop, with tailors and designers rushing about in a flurry of creative chaos. One designer admired a new piece, asking about its deadline. A mustached man informed a particular elf-like woman with goggles and a pipe that she had been awaited for a long time. He inquired when the fabrics would arrive, and she confirmed they had just come in, the quantity correct, while noting how increasingly hectic the place was getting. A young woman with bright auburn hair, Cecilia, approached, greeting the elf woman as Mother. The elf, Emil, asked her daughter what was with all the garment cutters. Cecilia's eyes sparkled as she announced the opening of a new business, a high-end brand using luxurious fabrics and jewels. Kirsten listened, her expression unreadable behind a puff of smoke from her pipe. A fond smile then graced her lips. She mused that she didn't know how long it had been since she'd seen her daughter's radiant smile, one more beautiful than any jewel. Cecilia, touched by her mother's words, beamed with happiness. Kirsten assured her not to worry about any potential damages or costs. But then Kirsten's expression sharpened slightly. She asked if her daughter didn't just come because of that, noting with a click of her tongue that Cecilia was so damn quick to pick up on financial opportunities. Cecilia admitted that it wasn't just for that. She had news to tell. Emil asked what it was. "It's about the Rose Palace," Cecilia said, her cheerful demeanor instantly vanishing, replaced by a look of sheer terror. She grabbed her mother's arm, her voice trembling, asking frantically if nothing had happened to her son, her own child. She feared that vicious human had done something terrible. Kirsten's heart ached for her daughter, wondering how much she must have struggled alone all this time. She gently calmed her, stroking her hair and explaining that what happened was actually the opposite of her fears. Taking a puff from her pipe, she told her daughter not to be surprised. Cecilia's eyes widened as the truth sunk in, whispering, "Emil, that woman." That night, at the now infamous Rose Palace, blood dripped from the rafters onto the cold stone floor where a body lay. The remaining palace staff looked on, their faces pale with shock and fear. A crowd gathered at the blood-splattered main entrance. Cecilia, who had collapsed upon seeing the scene, asking if she was all right. Cecilia looked up at her mother, apologizing, whispering that she was relieved it was finally over. Kirsten knelt and cradled her weeping daughter, holding her close. Cecilia clutched her mother's sleeve, asking if it was really over. Kirsten looked down at her, her voice firm but gentle, asking if she had ever seen an elf lie. All this time, Cecilia confessed through her tears, she had never shown it, but she had felt as though she was walking on knives every single day. She had been framed, blamed, and had even faced assassination attempts. She could never say anything and almost died so many times, always having to beg them to spare her son. Now it's really over, right? She asked again, her face a mask of hope and exhaustion. Kirsten's own eyes welled with tears. She held her daughter tighter and confirmed, "Yeah, it's all over." She told Cecilia she had gone through so much alone and that she had worked hard. Sometime later, Navan Bacchus leaned against a railing in an opulent room, a grin on his face. He remarked that he had heard Theo had become famous. Theo, calmly pouring tea as Navan descended a grand staircase, replied that he was later than he thought. Navan settled onto a plush sofa, noting that he had been told not to say anything, but Theo seemed to know everything before he could even utter a word. He confirmed with satisfaction that the Bacchus family was going to be destroyed. Starting with the family head, everyone who had stamped the incriminating receipt would at least be stripped of their status. Navan said they got what they deserved, and with that, the Bacchus family was finished. Then he asked Theo if that was enough. Theo leaned forward, asking what Navan meant. Then he made a suggestion. Navan should become the new family head of the Bacchus family. Navan was visibly shocked. He asked, "Me, the family head?" Theo explained that with everyone else deprived of their position, there was no one left to continue the family aside from him. And, Theo added, he wanted Navan to become his power in the coming war against the Troivans. Navan's shock deepened. He let out a disbelieving laugh. A war against the Troivans? He realized this punk had been planning this from the very beginning. Theo simply sipped his tea, reflecting that the continuous psychological battle had finally surfaced. Indeed, an all-out war with the Troivans would begin soon. A public notice had been posted on the city walls, drawing a murmuring crowd. The notice officially confirmed that the Sky Dragon's rebellion was related to the Troivans and the demonic cult, and that authorities were trying to uncover their plans in the north. The citizens were stunned, recognizing this as a practical declaration of war. Theo knew that with the incident revealed, neither the Troivans nor the cult would stay quiet. However, Navan pointed out that to a terminally ill man like himself, war was the farthest thing from his mind. He would need to get something in return for his action. Theo replied calmly, "Of course." He tossed a small object across the table. Navan caught it, a sleek metallic disc pulsing with a faint blue light. He asked what it was. Theo reminded him of his promise to cure his illness. He then produced a scroll. This, he explained, was the recipe for treating ether fever, and the disc was a key ingredient, the ether core. Navan stared at the items, utterly dumbfounded. Theo continued explaining that while it wasn't public knowledge, ether fever was a disease that impaired the circulation of mana in the body. The core could fix that circulation. Navan admitted this was unexpected. He had assumed Theo would cure him just enough to keep him alive and then use the cure as a leash. Theo simply looked at him, a silent question in his eyes. Navan asked what he would do if he simply took everything and ran. Theo replied nonchalantly that he didn't care if Navan chose to do that. Theo explained that there were too many problems if one focused only on power, just as the Ragnar clan does now. He told Navan that they were both victims of that culture. What he wanted was not to overpower others with force. He wanted trust. He clarified that he wanted to share a relationship with everyone built on trust, not pressure or threats. Navan was silent for a long moment, processing the boy's words. He finally spoke, admitting that he had intended not to underestimate Theo for being a kid, but it turned out he was an immature romanticist. Theo simply asked, "So, you don't want it?" Navan quickly downed his tea, setting the cup down with a sharp click. Theo watched him, waiting. Navan rose to his feet and drew his sword. He placed the flat of the blade against his forehead in a gesture of fealty. "I, the Bacchus family's family head, Navan Bacchus, pledge an oath to become Theo Ragnar's sword." A triumphant smirk graced Theo's lips. Navan looked up, a wide grin spreading across his own face. "Will that be enough?" he asked. "That's enough," Theo confirmed, raising his cup in a silent toast. The deal was struck. Theo mused on the impending war with the Troivans. Everything was progressing much faster than it had in his past life. But he had no worries. Everything was going smoothly. He turned his attention to the two ornate relic boxes he had recovered. The first, he thought, reaching for one of the chests, it was time to open the treasure. A blue screen materialized before him. Subquest: conquer the two recovered relics. Progress: 0 out of 2.